We
Yes, it
obviously
is.
have some questions. We definitely have some questions. And, we're definitely going to start with some of your past because that's important to people like us.
Shame
You know,
187. I'm hanging with you. You're hanging with me. We're hanging together. Things are happening. Like Brad Barton said, things are happening. You just can't see them. But anyway, we want to know the past of Phil Godlewski's life. Well, he is somewhat a public figure now, and he is ripping off millions and millions of people's for millions and millions of dollars. So I think he's entitled to a bit of scrutiny. So, Phil, let's see what you've got to say. This is a Telegram chat, voice chat from Telegram Phil came into, and some people got to ask him some questions, which was good. It's about time he answered some questions. Anyway, let's hear what he's got to say.
you know, we a lot of us are conservative people here and have a lot of the same values that you claim to have yourself. Okay. So we're supposed
Okay.
to be in this together. So getting your past straight now is important to us. I'm going to throw out a couple questions and I'm just curious. Okay. So when you talk about how the young girl that made the accusations against you, when you guys actually, you say that she pled the fifth on the stand and she wouldn't say anything. Is that what you end up like? Is that what happened? Or she recanted her statement on the stand? What happened there?
Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to write down in point form just the important parts of Phil's story, what we can establish from that.
So when I was arrested for this in 2009, I didn't know that any of it was happening, but evidently there was a many month-long investigation into all of this stuff. And then
All right, so Phil's just said there was a many-month investigation. In 2009, there was a many-month investigation.
suddenly on a Friday, they just came and picked me up. And I was like super shocked. So
$250,000 bail. So that means the initial bail amount was $2.5 million, which means that's a very serious crime. And they only do that in extreme cases, in extreme crime. So I'd love to know the ins and outs of this story, because what he's saying just doesn't add up. $2.5 million, you've got to pay 10%, and he says he pays $250,000 bail. That means his total bail is $2.5 million.
they set bail really, really high. It was like a $250,000 bail. I ended up getting bailed out thanks to my family. And then after that, I had to try to figure out what was going on.
We don't really discuss this part that I'm about to talk about, that I'm doing. But later on, he forges checks or makes dodgy checks and cashes them in so he could pay for his kitchen to be put in. But why wouldn't he just ask his parents to cover the cost of the kitchen while he was waiting for this particular check to clear? Because he tried to make out that it didn't clear because this money didn't come in and he was relying on this money and blah, blah, blah. Just sounds like a crock of bullshit anyway. Really makes sense with this guy.
So I hired a defense team. I hired a investigator, a couple private investigators.
He says that he hired investigators. He hired a legal defense team. If he hired investigators, which I don't think he did, he probably would have. And if this is all, like he said, he didn't do it, wouldn't he have gone after the girl's family for defamation? Doesn't make sense. But we're going to jot that down. We're going to write down, he hired investigators.
I'm hearing echoing. I don't know who I'm hearing that through. It might be through Walter, I think.
Yeah, it's me, motherfucker.
Oh, wow. Here we go. See, I
Yeah,
told you
I'm
this
the
was
one
going to
that
happen,
pissed on
right?
your mailbox. I got a selfie in front of your house.
Hold on,
I've
hold
been
on.
waiting to talk to you, motherfucker. You loudmouth piece of shit, little bitch, child molested motherfucker.
To you, Walter. We understand everyone has high emotions, but let's just keep talking. He was talking. Let him go.
So anyway, they picked me up on a Friday, set really high bail. I ended up bailing out. I hired a defense team. I hired a couple private investigators. And I know this is going to sound weird to you guys, but I didn't do any of this. Now, the extent of what I did do was comfort a girl in the time of need.
Okay, let's not sugarcoat this. You had inappropriate dealings with a child. Okay? 14 years of age, she's a child. You are a man, you're double her age. Okay? Double her age, and she is a child.
And back then, I kind of was trying to do what I do now, comfort people in a time of need. There's a really terrible portion of history in our country right now, and a lot of people need somebody to talk to or somebody to at least comfort them. And even if things aren't happening at the pace that everybody wants to, somebody still needs reassurance that everything's going to be okay.
So here comes Phil saying everything's okay to a 14-year-old child. Can you believe that? Would you let your 14-year-old child be comforted by a man like Phil? I guess not.
That's just how I've always been my entire life. So when this girl's boyfriend hung himself, he was actually a good friend of mine too.
Okay.
When this girl...
So this girl had a boyfriend that hung himself. I'm just going to throw this question out there. But could he have killed himself? Could the potential cause of him killing himself be the fact that you and his girlfriend were sleeping together? Or you were grooming her to sleep with you? Because you were found guilty of corruption of a minor. And don't worry, I will get your full criminal record. I guarantee that. But I'm just going to throw that question out there. Because you said, and what you're about to say, let's just hear what you're about to say.
When this girl boyfriend hung himself, we kind of just, she was a friend of my family. We were from the same town. She was dating him. They were supposed to get married and have a baby and all this shit, and then he just hung himself.
So when they were talking about marriage, they were talking about a future together, they were talking about building a future together, and then all of a sudden he just hung himself. Could it be that you and the girl had inappropriate dealings and that's why it happened? Possibly? I'm not sure. I assume that you knew him and her while he was alive, because it sounds that way. I don't know. I'm going to expose more in a minute, so just keep listening.
So we developed a little bit of a friendship. I tried to cut it off with her.
You said we developed a friendship, cut it off with her. So were you already sleeping with her at this point that you became friends? Or did you become friends, then you cut it off with her? Then you groomed her? Because I'm kind of confused. It's a little bit all over the place, Phil. You didn't think people were going to catch up with this story that you're telling. But once you listen to it slowly and actually listen to what you're saying and break it down, it's as clear as day what you are. It's a liar.
She wanted no part of that. She threatened suicide if I stopped talking to her. I believed her. So I kept talking to her, and then Dory found out, my then fiance found out that, I was talking to her. She told me to shut it down.
Phil said earlier he tried to break it off with her. She threatened suicide. He believed her. He believed her. Continued talking to her. And like he said, he comforted her. Dory found out, he had to stop it. But if what you were doing was helping her, talking to her, comforting her, well, she was a grieving girl, grieving for her boyfriend that had just killed himself. And you said she was suicidal. Did you ever think to get someone out to do a mental evaluation on her? Yourself a friend. Why would Dory ask you to stop it, to break it off with her, to stop it? Because you knew, Dory knew, this was an inappropriate relationship. Alright? You knew it was wrong.
It's inappropriate, whatever. Went back to the girl, said, hey, got to shut it down. It's inappropriate. Fiance found out. And she threatened to go to the police. I said, you're going to go to the police? With what? She said, I'm going to tell them we had a relationship. I said, you're going to tell them we had a relationship? Go fucking tell them. And I called her bluff. A year later, I got arrested. She wasn't bluffing. She went to the extent of putting together spoofed out text messages. I know some of you guys know what they are.
Started the video that there was a many-month investigation. And now he just makes it like, oh yeah, it was just brought on by whatever.
She went to an internet, site and basically fabricated, and we proved this through my private investigator. She fabricated many text messages, and she had conversations with her friends who were actually going to be named in trial. That was one of the reasons why she pled the Fifth Amendment at the preliminary hearing, because my private investigator and my attorney were about to expose all of the lies that she told about me.
I don't know for sure is there was thousands of messages from Phil to this girl. So I really can't see her needing to falsify evidence. After all, we will come to it in the future, but she does name a lot of things. And a lot of things that she says correlate with other things. The only thing that doesn't seem to correlate is Phil's story. It just doesn't add up. I found out that she was having conversations with her friends, and he was gonna get her friends to testify against her, but she went up onto the stand first and pleaded the Fifth. That his investigators were about to expose the lies she said about him. So how would she have known? And that's how she pleaded the Fifth. Is she psychic? Or am I just stupid? Probably I'm stupid.
So anyway, fast forward. I get arrested, bail out, get the defense team going, get the private investigator, start interviewing her friends and the parents of her friends and school teachers. And we have the day of the preliminary hearing, all of these people set to testify on my behalf about how this girl told them that this was all fabricated. We also have people within the district attorney's office that were going to testify the day of the preliminary hearing, and try to bring to light, if you would, the fact that the victim actually tried to go to the district attorney's office and put an end to all of this, because she was pressured into doing this by her mother. Her mother wanted to sue me civilly. Her mother saw a money grab opportunity. At the time, back in 2008, I was rising the ranks of the real estate industry. So I was kind of a up and coming 25-year-old realtor taking the area by storm, blah, 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 whatever.
To when you were 25, right? Did you have much cash flow? Were you very rich? I know I wasn't. I was just getting out into the world. I hadn't been out in it long. I was 5 years into my career, but by that stage I really hadn't done too much. So I couldn't say I'd made any big investments by that stage because I was only 25. I know Phil was a bit awkward and probably didn't go to parties, go on dates, hang around with friends, go out drinking with friends, go to baseball games, go to football games. I don't think he did anything like that. But I don't think he was an entrepreneur making money, cashing checks and signing bloody whatevers. Because after all, he did have to forge the check. He was doing check fraud. So I can't see how the mother would have wanted a cash grab when this is the first time you've even brought the mother into the equation. And you said that the girl went to the police because you said you wanted to break it up because Dory found out about it and you had to break it up. And you said the girl went to the police. So how could the mother be bringing this on? Diz, you already said that she wanted to go to the police because you said that Dory found out. She didn't want to do that. She still wanted to continue it. Whatever the comforting. And then she went to the police. Now you're backtracking. Now you're saying the mother was the driving force.
So she ends up trying to go to the DA to recant. They said, well, if you do that, we're going to file against you because then you filed the false police report. And I don't know if you guys know this, but in Pennsylvania, filing a false police report is felony. So they were threatening her with a felony if she did recant. She went there once. They told her that. She went back again prior to the preliminary hearing. She went back again. They told her the same thing, and then she got a lawyer. Her mother didn't even know she got a lawyer. And the lawyer gave her advice. And he said, the day of the preliminary hearing, go up to the stand. As soon as they ask you the first question, whatever it may be, just say that I choose to plead the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution. And that's what she did. Now, the funny thing about the preliminary hearing was this. The prosecution, the district attorney's office, they seized my car. They seized Dory's car. They executed a federal search warrant. Not a federal search warrant, but a search warrant for my house. They executed a search warrant for my real estate company that I worked for at the time. They executed, I think it was 11. It might have been 12. I don't know. Somewhere around there. Somewhere around 10 plus or minus. Search warrant for houses that this girl said I had sex with her in. They took my laptop. They took my home computer. They took my business computer. They took both of our cell phones. They put pressure on the Pennsylvania Real Estate Commission to suspend my license so I couldn't work. They did all of that. And then the day of the preliminary hearing, now, for those of you that don't know this,
It was really 2 million. It was really 2.6 million.
Here we go.
So they took your cars. They took your cars. They took your houses. So they took your cars. They took Dory's car. They took your car. Executed search warrant at your house. They searched 10 to 12 houses, of which the girl obviously knew the addresses of the houses because the police would have cross-referenced whether or not you had access to these houses, or whether or not these houses were for rent, or whether or not these houses were for sale, whether or not your company was even in charge of these houses. They would have searched, they would have done all this. Right? This is what they do. Many month investigation is a long investigation. The type of bail you were set, it's pretty extreme. it's a pretty extreme amount to be set for a bail amount. So the crime that you must have been charged with must have been pretty bloody bad.
Everybody back?
Yep.
Yeah, we could continue, please. Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, interestingly enough, the day of the preliminary hearing, after having all of those search warrants executed and all of the evidence and all of the everything that the district attorney so happily reported to the newspaper, which is what you guys all read, by the way. You guys don't actually know what happened. Okay, just because you read stuff doesn't mean you know. None of you were there. She went, and her mother went to the district attorney's office and presented. They said that I wrote her a letter. Okay. They said in this letter I said certain things. I saw the letter. My attorney got a copy of it. It was typed. It wasn't a letter. It was a typed version of a letter, which anyone could have done. My attorney got that letter, the actual letter, put it through forensics, and there were two people's fingerprints ever to touch that letter: the victim and her mother.
Ezra.
Yeah, here we go. Another comedian is here. Johnny Superman's here. Congrats, Johnny. That was hilarious. Everybody laughed.
Get on with it. Yeah, we know the routine.
Yeah. Anyway, well, if you stop interrupting me, I will get on with it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so they have all this stuff at the preliminary hearing, all of this quote unquote evidence. You know what they presented at the preliminary hearing? Now, the preliminary hearing is an evidentiary hearing. That's when you present evidence to determine if a case goes to trial. I was going to trial. I was going to fight this and clear my name. So any plea deal that they offered me prior, I was not taking. There's no fucking chance that I was taking a plea deal and admitting guilt. Not going to happen. I didn't do anything wrong. Not going to happen. So all of this evidence comes out at the evidentiary hearing, right? Here's the DA's first chance to show all the evidence that they have against me. The judge turns to the prosecution. Her name was Patty Lafferty, and says, "Miss Lafferty, present your case against the defendant." I'll never forget this. She turns to the back of the room, and her eyes are kind of glancing back and forth, left and right, from the back of the room. And it had to be about 15 seconds or so, 30 seconds of her just looking at the back of the room. And it was long enough so that she wasn't saying anything. So the judge said again, "Miss Lafferty, please present your case." The defendant sits here accused of 8 felonies and 13 misdemeanors. You've executed several warrants, some of which I signed personally. I see here that there is cars being held. I see that there are cell phones, laptops, all this stuff. We will get to the victim's testimony, Miss Lafferty, but before that, I want you to present your evidence. And Lafferty said, "The only evidence we have to present today, Your Honor, is the testimony of the victim."
Feels good. Feels good. What did he say earlier? What did he say about 30 seconds prior to this?
After having all of those search warrants executed and all of the evidence and all of the everything.
So now you just admit that there is evidence. Yeah? See, he likes to play word games, so you got to listen very carefully because he's a slimy little fucking worm with words.
You could hear a pin drop in that courtroom when she said that. No one knew what to do because this is a very high-profile case that was on the front page of the Scranton Times.
When Phil means high profile, right, he only means it was on one newspaper. Yeah, that's it. That's a high-profile case. Phil is Mr. High Profile. You didn't know that, did you? Now you do.
The same Scranton Times that I'm now suing, which is ironic, I guess. But Sorry, guys. This was a tough day for me, so I'm trying here.
You're doing great, bud. Let it out, Phil.
See, the guy's so full of himself, right? He can't even tell that they were taking the piss out of him. Let it out, Phil, like you're the victim. There's a 14-year-old girl that you've been accused of having an inappropriate relationship with. We can agree on that. You said you corrupted her. You said you pleaded guilty to corrupting of a minor. I'm gonna get your criminal record, and I'm gonna do a video on it.
So the victim takes the stand. The judge was not happy. You could see it in his face. He stared a hole in her forehead. Not the victim, but the prosecutor, Patty Lafferty. So the victim takes the stand. Patty Lafferty is first to, question her. And she said, please state your name for the record. And she said, per the 15th, I'll never forget, per the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America, I choose to invoke my right to not testify. Now, if you know what the Fifth Amendment says, the Fifth Amendment basically protects you from testifying against yourself for something that will incriminate yourself. That's why you plead the Fifth Amendment. But pleading the Fifth Amendment is not refusing to testify. Pleading the Fifth Amendment is telling the court that if you do testify, you will be incriminating yourself. Now, thinking of this logically, why would her testimony incriminate herself? The only way that her testimony could incriminate herself is if she tells the truth on the stand. She's going to have to admit that her allegations against me were false. And if that's the case, she is thus throwing herself into a felony of filing a false police report. So by avoiding testifying, she avoided getting herself in trouble. She didn't refuse to testify. Whoever thinks that in your group, you're wrong. That's not what happened. That's why I had 8 felonies dropped and 12 misdemeanors dropped.
So how come you didn't sue her for defamation? If she said all these, things that are false about you, how come you haven't gone after her in the civil courts? Because I think it's a lie.
Now let's talk about the misdemeanor that I did plead to. These motherfuckers, they were going to drag this out for another couple of years. They told my attorney that flat out. They said, we're still going to go to trial. My attorney's like, what the fuck you mean we're going to go to trial? She just excused herself as the witness and you don't have any other evidence. We're like, yeah, you're right. We don't. But if we drop the charges now, he's going to sue us and he's going to win. And they were right. That's exactly what I would have did. So they were going to drag it out. Meanwhile, I can't work. My grandfather's in very terrible health. Their business is suffering. We had a local business down in town. Their business is suffering because I'm the top talk of the fucking town, because now everyone thinks I'm a pedophile because of this, right? So with 2 years, at least a year before we even get back to the point of selecting a jury, let alone get to the point of trial. And they knew that they knew that dragging it out was going to force me to plea. They knew it. And I didn't fucking care. I said, I don't care. I'm going to trial anyway. Joe DeAndre was my attorney. I said, I don't care. I'm going to go to trial anyway. I'll wait 2 years. My family business is going to suffer. I'm not going to be able to practice real estate. I'll file bankruptcy. I don't care. I'm not taking the fucking charge. Why? So I have to deal with this the rest of my life? You think that I really want to be sitting here talking to you guys tonight about this fucking shit? Because I don't. But I did it because you all have a very huge misconception in your minds. Forget about the politics stuff for a minute. This is wrong. Calling someone a pedophile, like most of you do, is wrong.
Phil, Having inappropriate relationships with 14-year-olds is wrong. Grooming 14-year-olds is wrong. Alright? Lying is wrong, Phil. You're better off coming clean, mate. We'll find out sooner or later. We've already picked these stories apart. Anyway, I am your boy, Shane187, kicking it with you. You're kicking it with me, and I'm out.